Hi, this is Paul Solt from iPhone Dev TV, and we're going to continue the functions code examples. So we're going to create a function to create area. So let's highlight the mouse. We're going to create a new Xcode project. We're going to go OS X this time, and then select Application, Command Line Tool, hit Next. And we'll call this one Functions. And I'll go with the foundation. Hit Next. And then create it in your projects directory. Go over to main.m. We can remove the code that we have here, and we're going to insert some stuff up top. So what we have to do is we have to explain to the computer what our new function is going to be. And in this case, we want to calculate area, which is going to be a times b. Okay, so there's going to be two parameters, and then there's going to be one value that we need to return. So we're going to have int area, and then we do a parentheses, and then int side A, int side B, open curly brace, press enter, it'll auto insert. Now you'll see an error on the next line. That's okay. This error is saying that control reaches the end of a non-void function. We haven't finished writing our code, but basically this means that we need a return statement. So we need to say return area or return something. So let's finish writing our code. We're going to have a result, and we're going to say result is equal to side A times side B, and then we're going to return that value. So return expression, our expression is result, semicolon. So just make sure that you have both your semicolons here, and that's our first function. So this is much like the nslog function that we've been using to do statements, printing stuff out. We're creating our own function to do our own things. And you can use this in your iPhone apps to do different types of data processing or to respond to user feedback. Functions are really a building block because they allow us to reuse code multiple times, and I'll show you an example of that. What I'm doing here is I'm going to make a function call. And so I'm going to call that function that we have up top, and I pass it two values, 4 and 2. And those are in the parentheses separated by a comma and then ended with a semicolon. Now do a nslog. Now this is a function that allows us to print stuff to the console. So we can print out the integer with %d and then type in total. Just make sure you have a comma here and that your string is in the quotation marks with the @ symbol on the front. Once we have that, we can hit the run function in the top left, and we see that our program runs. The total is 8, and that's good to go. Now we can do the same thing, and we can run it multiple times. So we could say total is equal to area of 200 times 100, and do another semicolon at the end of that line. And then we can print out this message. So what's the new value of total? And then I'll go ahead and hit the play button up top to build and run. And we see that it says 8 and then 20,000. So that's giving us the area. Now let's learn about breakpoints. So on line 13, you can insert a breakpoint. If you just click in the gutter, right where my mouse is, this will actually stop the program from running. So what that means is that the computer will stop trying to run your program and wait for you to tell it to keep going. Breakpoints are useful because they allow us to find bugs and fix things and sort of see what's going on under the hood, because all of this code is executed very fast. And so a breakpoint allows us to step through the code on our own time and sort of see what the computer's doing. So let's go ahead and run this. Now on the left, we're going to see some new stuff. And in the middle, we'll see this line of code being highlighted with the breakpoint 1.1. On the left, we see our stack frames. So here we have our main stack frame and then our new function stack frame. And then in the bottom, in the middle, if you don't have this sidebar on, turn it on, you'll see your variables. And these are local variables. And then we have a result which hasn't been set yet. So side A and side B have been passed in, and you can hover over them to see the values. And we're about to execute this line of code. Right now it hasn't been executed, which is why it's highlighted, and we'll hit the step over button down here. And now that code is executed, we now have a value of 8, and you can see that updated down here. It's italicized to show that it just changed on the previous line of code. And we can step over again. And now what just happened is the area stack frame just disappeared, and now we're only with our main stack frame here. And we have our other variables. So here we have the parameters for the main method that we're seeing here. And we're also seeing our local variable total. But total doesn't have a value yet. It hasn't received it until we step one more time. And now you can see that total is now 8. And if we step another time, this will print it out. And now we have the new value. So this is incredibly useful because this sort of shows you what the computer's doing when it's running your programs, when it's running your iPhone apps, and allows us to sort of figure out what's going on when there's a problem, or just get a better understanding of how it all works. So we're on the next line. We've hit another breakpoint right in here. And we have two new values. So side A and side B both have those values passed in. Result is not set yet, so you can't assume any values for result before it is actually assigned to. So we'll see that this value will change to 20,000 after we execute this line of code. And then we step over, we just popped off the area stack frame, and now we're back to our main method. We're going to execute this line of code the rest of the way and replace the current value of total, which was 8, with a new value, which is 20,000. Now we can step over and print that out, and we see the output. And if we step over a couple more times, we'll see some assembly code, which is this stuff. And you just step, and then we're done. The program has finished. All right, so that is working with the debugger, setting a breakpoint, and seeing different things. And you can always hit the play button to sort of resume and restart. If you hit the continue program execution button, it will jump until it hits the next breakpoint, which is down here. So it basically jumps through all of the code from the previous one, and then we can hit play again, and then we'll finish, and we'll see that this stuff prints out. So play around with it. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but it's an incredibly helpful tool when we're trying to debug problems in our iPhone apps.